This happened a few months ago. I was digging through the dusty archives of a small coastal town's maritime museum. I was searching for clues about a ship lost in 1823. I wouldn't say I was a novice, but I had never encountered anything like this. The air felt heavy. There was a sense that something waited to be uncovered. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. As I moved deeper into the museum, I found a hidden section. Dust swirled as I opened a worn set of journals. The pages were yellowed and brittle. Each entry spoke of ghostly sightings and whispers haunting the ship. My heart raced, and I hesitated. I felt something sinister in the air. As I flipped through the pages, words like betrayal and unease leapt out at me. Each line sent chills down my spine. I stole a glance around the room, half expecting someone to emerge. The dim lights flickered, and I heard a faint whisper behind me. I spun around, but only rows of silent artifacts stared back. That night, I returned to my rented room. Fragments of old sea shanties echoed in my mind. I tried to ignore them, but they stuck like barnacles, refusing to let go. I clutched my pillow. It felt like ice had settled in my veins. Sleep didn't come. The next day, I headed back to the museum. Fishermen lingered outside, cautioning me not to dig too deep into the past. It brings misfortune, one said. My curiosity wouldn't let me turn away. I felt that something was waiting for me. Upon entering the museum again, the air thickened. I brushed off the sensation as my imagination. I wandered back to the journals. The lights flickered again, and I felt a jolt of electricity. My hand hovered above the pages, but doubt crept in. A voice in my head warned me to stop. I turned to leave. That's when I saw it or someone. A shadow darted past the window. My heart raced as fear turned into adrenaline. I rushed outside, but the street was empty. Nothing but the sound of the waves. My breath quickened. That night, I woke to a whisper at the edge of my dreams. It felt familiar. Help us, it called softly. I jerked upright, skin prickling. I glanced around the dark room, the sea outside now more menacing. Then I heard it again, clearer this time. James. My name floated through the dark, chilling me to the bone. Shadows danced in the corners, and I realized the truth I sought might not just hide in the pages of those journals. What if the ship wasn't lost at all? What if it had simply waited? What if those voices were trying to tell me something? I felt as though I stood on the brink of something terrible. The whispering grew louder. I needed to go back, but a weight settled in my chest. I was drawn to the darkness. And I couldn't escape it. The next morning, I returned to the museum, the familiar chill creeping up my spine. My heart raced with a mix of excitement and dread. I needed to confront whatever was waiting for me. I pushed through the heavy door, the creaking sound echoing in the empty hallway. This time, I was determined. I headed straight for the hidden section. The journals beckoned, promising answers, or at least the truth behind those desperate whispers. As I reached for the first journal, the lights flickered above me. I gripped the edge of the desk to steady myself. Once again, I opened the journal, and the same words leapt off the pages, but now they held a different weight. Devil's bargain, lost souls, grave. I rifled through the pages, searching for answers. I stumbled upon an old map tucked inside, the edges torn and stained with seawater. A location was marked in ink, a spot I had never seen before. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, instinctively. No one was there. The stillness wrapped around me, but then I caught a glimpse of movement, another shadow darting past the corner of my eye. Panic set in. I raced toward the exit, needing fresh air. Outside, the salty breeze bit at my face, but it didn't quell the rising sensation of being watched. I glanced up and down the street, and that's when I saw her, a woman standing just beyond the museum, her figure dim against the morning sun. She wore a long, flowing dress that swayed with the wind. Her face was obscured, but the moment I caught her gaze, I felt a pull, an urgency. "James," she called, her voice low and haunting. I hesitated before taking a step closer. "Who are you?" "I know why you're here," she replied, the heaviness of her tone striking me. "I know what you seek." "What do you mean?" I pressed, my pulse quickening, her gaze hardened. "You shouldn't have meddled in their past. They are restless." A shiver coursed through me. "Who are you talking about?" "The lost souls," she whispered. "They need your help just as you need theirs. But be warned, it's not just knowledge you'll uncover, it's an invitation, and they may ask for more than you're willing to give." Before I could ask another question, she turned and walked away, her form blurring into the sunlight. I stood paralyzed, my breath hitching. I remembered the journal and the map. The marked location felt like a challenge. I couldn't ignore it now. I had to go there. As I made my way back inside, the museum felt colder, more oppressive. I realized I was no longer driven by curiosity alone. I had stumbled onto something darker than I had imagined. Those voices were getting louder, blending into a cacophony of desperation. I grabbed the map, heart pounding with dread and anticipation. What awaited me at the marked X? I had no idea, but I was going to find out. Just as I turned to leave, I felt a presence behind me. The air thickened. I slowly glanced back, and my breath caught in my throat. The shadow was no longer a mere trick of light, it was solid, standing right at the edge of my vision. Someone or something was waiting. And I realized that I was no longer alone. I took a shaky step back, my heart racing. The shadow shifted slightly, seeming to expand, then contracted, as if it were breathing. I opened my mouth to call out, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I stood frozen, the map crumpling in my fist. "Who's there?" I finally managed to choke out. No answer came, just the echo of my voice bouncing off the cold walls. Then, the figure moved. It glided toward me, almost gliding rather than walking. I squinted, trying to make sense of the shadow. Suddenly, the lights above flickered violently and plunged the room into darkness for a heartbeat. When the lights came back on, the figure was closer, nearly in front of me. I could see the outline of a man, his face gaunt and worn, eyes hollow as if they held a deep sorrow. "You sought the truth, James," he rasped. "But some truths are best left undiscovered. Who are you?" I managed to whisper, gripping the edge of the desk for support. "I was once like you, curious, driven. I found the map, but it led me to my doom," he said. His voice seemed to vibrate with a sorrowful urgency. "Those who answer the call do not return unscathed." The shadows in the room thickened, and I felt a wave of cold wash over me. "The woman outside," I started, but the figure shook his head, cutting me off. "Do not trust her. She's a siren luring you to the depths." His voice trembled with fear, and I realized this was not just a warning, it was a plea. Before I could respond, a violent crash shook the museum, echoing through the halls. I stumbled, barely catching myself on the edge of the desk. The lights flickered again, dimming to mere pinpricks of illumination. "Run!" he yelled, and in that instant, he vanished into the air, leaving behind only the chill of his presence. My instincts took over, and I darted towards the exit. As I neared the door, the journals began to flutter violently as if caught in a tempest. I shoved the door open and burst out into the daylight. Outside, the street was unnaturally quiet. I was confronted by the same woman in the flowing dress, her back turned to me. "You listened to him," she said flatly, a hint of disappointment in her tone. "Now you're more entangled than ever." "Who is he?" I shouted, desperate for answers. She turned slowly, and her eyes bore into me with an intensity that made my stomach drop. "He was a previous seeker, just like you. Just like all the others who fell into the trap." A ghost of a smile touched her lips, but it was devoid of warmth. Do you think you are different? That you hold the key to their peace? She taunted. Above, the clouds gathered, dark and ominous, mimicking the uncertainty swirling in my mind. What are you trying to say? They want something from you, James. And they are not the only ones. And with that, the ground shook beneath my feet, and everything went pitch black. I stumbled, disoriented. The last thing I heard was the sound of rushing water and voices, a symphony of whispers rising from the darkness, drowning out all rational thought. That I had a sinking feeling that whatever lay ahead would demand far more than I could give. When the darkness faded, I found myself standing beside a river. The water was unnaturally still under the gray sky, like glass reflecting the looming storm. A chill ran through me, reminding me all too well of the last encounter. I had no idea how I got here, but the tension in the air told me I was far from safe. My heart raced as I looked around, searching for any sign of the woman or the shadow from the museum. The only sound was the soft trickle of water that seemed to whisper secrets. What now? I muttered out loud, hoping for guidance. To my right, an old, weathered boat bobbed gently on the river. It looked abandoned but was strangely inviting, almost as if it beckoned to me. The urge to explore warred with the warning I had just received. I took a cautious step closer. A strange urge compelled me to climb inside, despite the dread pooling in my stomach. Just as I reached the edge, I noticed something glimmering beneath the surface. I leaned over to get a better look. It was a tarnished locket, hanging lifelessly in the water, glinting in brief bursts of light. I grabbed a stick and poked at the muddy riverbed, trying to dislodge it. It felt wrong to want it, but an insatiable need surged through me. Then there came a voice from behind, soft but urgent. "Leave it, James." I turned quickly. The woman stood on the riverbank, her eyes fixed on me. "You shouldn't touch what's not yours," she warned, a hint of concern breaking through her previous chill. "Why are you here?" I demanded, withdrawing my hand. "What's happening? Why can't I just walk away?" "You can try," she said, her voice steady but low. "But the river holds many secrets. It remembers everything." Suddenly, the water began to swell, rising rapidly toward the shore. I stumbled back, panic tightening my chest. "What are you talking about?" "That river flows with the spirits of the lost," she replied. "They want you to join them just like him." She gestured toward a flash of shadow gliding beneath the surface, the outline of a familiar figure moving with an unnatural grace. "Who?" I stammered, feeling sick. "The man you met, the one who warned you. He's trapped. And now, he wants to guide you to the same fate." I stumbled backward, fear washing over me like the rising tide. My heart pounded in my ears. "I'm not going anywhere," I insisted, backing away. "I want to be trapped like the others." The water began to churn and shift violently, and the boat rocked ominously. I heard the whispers again, louder this time, all clamoring for attention. Each one was a plea, a call for help. My resolve faltered. "James," the woman said, stepping forward with a grace that seemed to draw the whispers back, if only for a moment. "You must leave before it's too late." Before I could respond, she reached toward me, her hand stretching unexpectedly across the distance between us. "Choose wisely." The ground trembled again, and I realized the waves were not just water, they were memories, pulling at me, dragging me toward the depths. I felt a sudden determination rise within, but I also knew it wouldn't be easy to escape this place. And just when I thought I might turn away, I caught sight of the locket once more, still shimmering beneath the water. I hesitated, my gut tightened with apprehension. Then everything went dark again, and I heard the rushing water closing in around me, dragging me into an abyss. I gasped as I was yanked from that suffocating darkness. The air felt heavy, like a wet blanket pulled tight across my chest. My senses were overwhelmed, flooded with scents of damp earth and rotting wood. I blinked against the dim light, adjusting to my surroundings. I was on the boat. It rocked gently in the water, the surface now eerily calm, but I felt an unsettled tremor beneath me. The river carried a lingering hum, like distant whispers from an ancient time that clawed at my thoughts. To my right, the woman stood at the bow, her eyes scanning the shore. "You made it," she said, her voice soft but edged with urgency. "But we must move quickly." I shook my head in confusion. "Move? Where? What is happening?" She turned, meeting my gaze with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. "The river is a conduit. We're in a place where time has lost its meaning. The locket you found links us to the past dangerous events from long ago." I swallowed hard, remembering the glimmering object and its connection to the shadow. "Dangerous events? What do you mean?" "That locket belonged to someone aboard a ship that vanished in 1823. All evidence of its fate was erased. But the river, it holds those who were lost." She gestured to the still water. "Those who dwell here want to reclaim what was taken from them. And they see you as a target." I felt a cold sweat break out across my forehead. "Why me? I didn't ask for any of this. They choose those who linger at the edge of their world. You have been marked, James." Before I could process her words, a low groan came from deep within the boat, causing it to dip dangerously close to the water. Panic surged. "What is that?" I asked, gripping the edge of the boat. "The spirits," she replied. "They're restless." Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, forming a chaotic symphony of crying voices. I felt myself drawn toward the edge of the boat, the locket's allure tugging at me once more. I glanced at the water, and for a brief moment, a vision flashed before me, a ship caught in a storm, its sails torn and screaming souls reaching for help. "What happened to them?" I stammered. The realization hit me hard. "They want to drag me down with them." "Exactly. You must resist their call." Just then, the river surged, sending waves crashing against the hull. I stumbled, losing my balance, but the woman reached out, catching my wrist just in time. "Hold on." The moment felt electric, armor against the rising tide. But as she steadied me, I caught a glimmer to my left. The locket was radiating an unnatural glow, pulsing with a sinister energy. "James, don't look!" she shouted, but it was too late. My gaze was locked onto that shining object. The boat lurched, and with it came a surge of power from the water. Suddenly, figures began to rise, their faces blurred but full of despair. I could see their hands reaching for me through the mist. A jolt of fear struck me to my core. I knew I had to get away, but I didn't know how. That was when I heard another voice, not from the river, but from inside my own head. "Finish what began or you'll all drown." The weight of those words crashed into me with the force of the tide. As I desperately fought against the current pulling me down, I realized I needed to confront the truth more than ever, and somewhere deep in the water, something shifted, something dark and patient, waiting for the moment to strike. The chill in the air wrapped around me as the boat rocked violently. I blinked hard, trying to shake off the vision of the ship and the anguished faces. The woman's grip tightened on my wrist, her knuckles white against the sudden upheaval. "James, listen to me," she shouted over the cacophony of desperate voices. "We need to focus. You can't let them in." In that moment, my stomach lurched. The figures were rising from the depths, a ghostly brigade of lost souls, each one a reflection of despair. Their hollow eyes locked onto mine, and I felt the weight of their silent screams press against my chest. I stumbled back, but the woman wouldn't let go. "Concentrate. We must break the connection," she urged. "How do I do that?" My voice cracked, barely rising above the fray. "Think of the locket. It has power, but you must focus on the reason you found it. Remember who it belonged to." I glanced at the locket now glowing fiercely in the fading light. It was an anchor, but it also seemed like a snare. I remembered the old lady, her soft voice guiding my hand as I picked it up at the antique shop. I thought of the stories, the mystery swirling around the ship that vanished without a trace. The passengers they wanted to be remembered, I murmured, the words spilling out as a realization struck me. Yes. Exactly. Give them that. Acknowledge them. You can send them peace. The ghostly figures faltered momentarily. It was enough of a distraction for me to regain footing. I felt the trembling of the boat beneath me lessen, if only a fraction. I'm sorry. I remember you. I shouted into the chaos. You're not forgotten. I promise. The air around us shifted. The restlessness of the spirits dimmed. The locket blazed, illuminating something in the water. I squinted, and there it was, a shadow of a ship beneath us, rotting and ghostly, still caught in its last moments of life, that S when I saw it. A figure stood at the helm, half-formed and barely visible, but unmistakable. The captain. My heart raced as recognition flooded me. Is that him? I pointed. Yes. He holds the key. The woman cried, but before I could process this, the river surged again, angry and uncontrollable. Whispers morphed into shouts, drowning out everything. The boat rocked violently, nearly capsizing. James! Brace yourself. I clutched the edge, my gaze never leaving the apparition. It was too clear, too close. What do you want? I shouted, praying that somehow he could hear me. Finish what began, the whisper echoed back, the voices harmonizing with the captain's own, thickening the tension in the air. The river roared in response, churning, whipping the water around us into frothy waves. I felt the pull again, this time stronger, as if the very current wanted to swallow me whole. They want you to join them. The woman shouted, panic creeping back into her voice. Don't give in. Suddenly, the locket exploded with light, dragging my focus back. The key, I repeated, the words clear in my mind but wrapped in uncertainty. But how? I had to go deeper. I could feel it. Tell me what I need to do. I pleaded, but the words were lost in the chaos. The water surged again, and this time I felt the sharp cold encasing my ankles. I braced myself, my heart pounding. I needed to act. I had to make a choice. Then everything went dark. I gasped for air, the sudden darkness swallowing me whole. It was as if I had plunged into icy water, weightless yet heavy with an oppressive stillness. My heart thundered in my chest, muffled by the abyss enveloping me. I blinked, trying to clear the murky haze from my vision. As the darkness receded, I found myself sitting on a wooden deck, a familiar scent of salt and decay filling my lungs. The ship was here, but it was different. It felt tangible, yet off, like a faded memory of something lost to time. I pushed myself up, looking around frantically. Ghostly sailors drifted through the shadows, their faces obscured but their movements frantic. I could hear whispers, soft and unsteady, like echoes of a long-forgotten storm. Help us, they seemed to plead, their voices merging into a sad melody. Where am I? I muttered, my voice hoarse. The woman from the boat, was she here too? Panic tinged my thoughts as I searched the deck. The locket trembled against my chest, a heartbeat synchronized with the distant pulse of the ship. Finish what began echoed through my mind again. The captain had said that I needed to find him. But the ship creaked unnaturally, as if resenting my presence, and I felt the weight of countless souls pressing in. I stumbled backward, colliding with something soft yet cold, an ethereal figure dressed in a tattered uniform. Who are you? I stammered, stepping away. Keep moving, boy. You're not safe here, he rasped, his eyes hazy and blank. I didn't know if I should trust him, but the urgency in his tone was enough to drive me forward. That I dashed toward the helm, the ship lurching beneath my feet like a live creature. The specters parted, their muted gazes reflecting a mixture of hope and despair. I was on the edge of something monumental, but I could feel time slipping through my fingers like sand. Then I saw it, the captain. He stood tall, a figure of authority, his presence commanding. Dimly lit by the pallid glow of the lanterns overhead, he gazed intently at me. I stepped closer, fear battling my resolve. "What do you want?" I shouted. "What happened here?" His lips moved, but no sound emerged. Instead, I felt the weight of his memories flooding into me. Images struck me like lightning. The ship was full of life once, laughter echoed through the decks, until chaos erupted, a storm, betrayal, a fight for survival. As the memories unfolded, the whispers turned frantic. The crew swirled, circling us, their growing anger palpable. "Finish what began," they chanted, their voices rising to a deafening crescendo. "No. I don't want this," I cried, clutching the locket, its warmth radiating against my palms. "I can't." "What do you need me to do?" Suddenly, the captain stepped closer, his face shifting from agony to desperation. "You must choose. Revolution or remembrance." Before I could respond, the ship lurched violently again, and the walls around me began to fade. I gripped the locket fiercely, praying for clarity, but all at once, I was back in the dark water, the icy chill wrapping around me like tendrils. That I gasped, desperately looking around, but nothing was there. I was alone, the locket dimming against my chest. Anxiety surged within me. I had no answers, only questions. Then, I noticed something glimmering in the depths below. It was the two halves of the captain's compass, broken and drifting away. I had to get it before it was lost again. But as I reached out, I felt resistance. Someone was pulling me back. A new fear gripped me, and I realized I had to choose. Would I fight for the living or give in to the pull of the restless dead? I strained against the cold grip pulling me deeper, the compass pieces twinkling just out of reach. Panic swelled in my chest. I couldn't just let it go. I had to fight, kicking with all my strength. I clawed at the water, feeling the pressure of whatever was holding me tighten. I was swimming against a tide of sorrow and despair, one that threatened to drag me into oblivion. I could barely see the surface, but I knew I had to break free. Just as I thought I was going to drown, I jerked violently and broke the surface. Gasping for air, I shot up, water cascading down my face. I was back on the wooden deck again. But the ship felt different now. The spectral crew loomed around me, their faces momentarily clearer, eyes filled with urgency. They pointed toward the helm, their silent messages vivid and intense. "Get the compass." I heard a voice within me, a command echoing from the shadows of the crew. "Finish what began." Driven by something deeper than fear, I pushed forward. The helm felt alive, the wood warm against my hands as I reached for it. There, nestled on the deck, was one half of the captain's compass, the other lost in the murky depths of my memory. That I crouched down, trembling, and reached for it. As my fingers brushed the cold metal, a wave of cold washed over me, and the ship let out an anguished creak. Suddenly, a figure stepped out of the dark, one of the sailors. His expression twisted into a snarl, anger radiating through the air. "You don't belong here," he shouted, his voice like ice. I stumbled back, heart racing. "No. I have to do this," I yelled back, gripping the locket tightly, its warmth reminding me of my purpose. "It's too late," he warned, his spectral form shifting, flickering like a dying flame. "You'll doom us all." In that moment of desperation, I remembered the captain's face and his words, "revolution or remembrance." I had a choice to make, but which would save them? I glanced again at the half-locked compass. If I could piece it together, maybe I could unlock something hidden. But could I face the consequences of what that meant? As I stood frozen, the ship trembled violently beneath me again, and I felt the familiar pull. This time, it wasn't just the water trying to drag me down, it was the entire ship, its essence pulling at my spirit. That's when I noticed a strange glow in the corner of my eye, a shimmering light flickering behind me. Turning slowly, I was met with the sight of the second half of the compass floating just above the waterline, beckoning me that I had to choose, and I had to choose now. With a final surge of will, I lunged for the glowing half, heart pounding. As my fingers closed around it, the ship let out a mournful wail, and everything went dark. I was falling. The world spun away, and the locket pulsed violently against my chest, as if letting out a final desperate plea. What awaited me below? I landed with a thud on solid ground, gasping as I opened my eyes. The darkness fractured into light, revealing the ship's deck, but everything felt shifted, skewed. I was no longer surrounded by phantom sailors or their cries. Instead, the air was thick with a strange fog, and the deck seemed to shimmer like a mirage that I blinked, trying to gather my thoughts. The compass pieces glinted in the corner of my vision. I clutched the two halves tightly in my hands. A surge of energy coursed through me, almost vibrating. Whatever had just happened, something at this moment felt alive, like it had taken a piece of me in return for the compass. That's when I saw something shift in the fog. A figure, hazy and indistinct, hovered just beyond my reach. My heart raced. Was it another ghost, or something worse? "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. "Find the heart of the ship." The figure shouted, its voice echoing eerily in the mist. "Only then will you understand." I took a step back, confusion gripping me. The heart of the ship? What did that even mean? Before I could process it, the figure vanished, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake. The compass warmed in my hands as if urging me forward. I looked around, trying to piece together where I was and what I needed to do. The gentle creak of the ship, softened by the fog, seemed both familiar and foreboding. There was a faint glow coming from below deck. Summoning what courage I could, I approached the stairs leading down. There was something calling to me, and I could almost hear whispers of the crew. "Keep going," they seemed to say. "You're close." I took a deep breath and descended the stairs, the wood creaking under my weight. The air was thick, and I could smell the brine of the sea mixed with something metallic, a scent that sent a shiver down my spine. As I reached the bottom, I entered a dim corridor that felt almost endless. Then, I spotted it. A door lay slightly ajar at the end of the passage, light spilling through the crack. My pulse quickened. Was this the heart of the ship or just another trap? I pushed the door open carefully. Inside, the light engulfed me, revealing a chamber filled with strange artifacts, maps, old compasses, and a chest that looked like it hadn't been touched in years. In the center of it all was a massive heart-like structure pulsing with a faint glow, as if it were breathing. That I approached, drawn to it, but suddenly, a shadow flared up behind me. "You shouldn't have come here." A voice growled. It belonged to a figure, one I recognized, the sailor with the snarl from before. His eyes burned with fury. "Why are you doing this?" I shouted, frustration mingling with fear. "You've awakened things best left alone." He hissed, lunging toward me. That I barely had time to react as the room darkened again, the heart's glow flickering like a dying star. I was about to find out what power the heart held, but now I had to make it out alive first. The shadow lunged, but I dodged to the side, barely avoiding a collision with the wall. The heart pulsed, its light flickering in rhythm with my racing heartbeat. I had to reach it. "You don't understand. I'm trying to help," I shouted into the darkness. The sailor halted, his eyes narrowing in doubt. "Help? You can't free us. We're trapped here because of you and your kind. They want to be remembered," I pleaded. "I can help them find peace." Fear clutched at my chest as a disorienting wave of despair washed over me. The heart flickered eerily, as if responding to my words, urging me to act. The ghostly sailor wavered momentarily, uncertainty flickering across his face. "By acknowledging them? That's not enough." His voice shook the room, and I realized the heart wasn't just a source of power, it was their very essence, their memories woven into its core. My grip tightened around the compass pieces, realization igniting within me. "I know how to finish what began," I said, my voice rising with unexpected conviction. "You want revolution or remembrance? I can give you both. Together, we can reshape this story." His eyes widened, the tension in his posture faltering. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every soul tugging at me, their desperate whispers merging with the reverberation of my own resolve. "You're not just trying to prevent me from reaching the heart," I continued, "you're afraid that if I succeed, it'll end everything. But ending this cycle is what you truly need." The room began to tremble, the heart pulsating harder, inviting us both closer. As the sailor hesitated, I took another step toward the heart. "Join me. Help your crew remember their stories. Help them find rest." Suddenly, shadows erupted from the corners of the room, whipping around in a frenzy. I felt the power of the heart wrap around me, pulling me forward. I could see memories swirling in the light, a storm, the ship's final moments caught in time, a crew bound by their fate, begging to be freed. "No!" the sailor howled, lunging, but I was ready this time. I held out the compass, feeling an electric jolt course through me as the two pieces clicked together. Light blazed, blinding everything, and both the sailors and my cries echoed into the void. Then things went silent. As the light faded, I found myself back on the river, the weight of the compass in my hand, but the roar of the restless souls had quieted. The river lay still, reflecting the storm clouds above. I glanced around, half expecting to see the woman or the shadowy sailor, or worse, the chaotic spirit brigade. But nothing remained. It was as if I had stepped out of a dream, a haunting dream that still clung to my consciousness like mist. The air was heavier now, and in that heaviness, I felt their presence, an uneasy peace washing over me, mixing with the remnants of desperation. I took a breath, trying to calm my racing heart, yet I knew deep down that the resolution was not complete. Did I truly help them? Or did I merely placate their torments for another sleepless night? I stood, heart pounding, as the river's edge beckoned me to walk away, but I froze. Would I ever be free from the memories of the ship, the voices that echoed in my mind? I could feel questions surge, judgment endured, acceptance wavered. Maybe there was no true escape from this. Finally, I turned and walked away, the compass firmly clutched in my hand, my heart heavy with what remained unanswered. I knew I might never return to gather the truths I once sought. As I drifted toward home, I couldn't shake the sensation that the journey was far from over. I still thought about the ship sometimes, its fate might haunt me yet, and deep within the murky depths of the river, the heart pulsed on, keeping its secrets, ensuring that those lost souls would never be entirely forgotten. And in the silence that followed, I understood it wasn't about closure, it was about the stories we leave behind, the echo of voices that linger long after.